space with my co-host.
Elijah Clark.
Axel Barrientos Almazan.
Today we have Mr. Charles Mauldin, a Birmingham resident who was a foot soldier in the Selma movement. He played a major role in the civil rights movement, marching with Dr. Martin Luther King, John Lewis, and other various civil rights icons.
I'd like to, I'd like to thank Mrs. Clark for the invitation to coming to South Hampton K-8 school. It's an honor to be a part of this program.
What made you get involved with the movement? Was there a single event or situation?
No, there was no single event. What really happened is we met at Brown Chapel AME Church, one of the most famous churches in the country. And we had a group of students who met there. The person who called that meeting together was Reverend James Orange, who was an SCLC staff member who was originally from Birmingham and was a part of the Birmingham movement. He organized the students in Selma to create an organization called the Dallas County Youth League. After a lot of considerations, many of the people who we thought the upperclassmen would accept the role of student leader of that movement, for other reasons decided not to accept the responsibility. And since nobody else was willing to step up and take that responsibility, I accepted, became president of the Dallas County Youth League, and that started my leadership of the movement in 1964 at the age of 16, and began to lead most of the demonstrations, both large and small, from that point on.
Yes, sir. We heard that some adults were trying to keep their children out of the protests for fear of losing their jobs or their children being hurt. How did your parents handle you being a part of it?
My parents were pretty frightened because they could have lost their job, and they worked for white people who would have either fired them or maybe tried to cancel their mortgage or retaliate against them. But there's a certain point in life where there's just, you take too much, so much that it's time to end taking it at all. And especially after I accepted the responsibility of being the student leader, it was my responsibility to lead. And what I did, along with other people just slightly older than yourselves, is decided that we would march regardless of the consequences to our families or ourselves. And so we had no choice but to march, regardless of what the circumstances were and what the loss might be.
Thank you. Thank you.
Who is your role model when it comes to the movement?
There were lots of role models. Diane Nash was a role model. Reverend James Orange from Birmingham was a role model. There was a guy by the name of John Love who was a role model. When I was about 16 years old, I had very few outstanding role models. As a matter of fact, I was maybe about 115 pounds wet and thought I should be a football player. and it wasn't until I began to meet guys who had gone to college and other places that I really recognized what type of role model I fit into more naturally. I was a very thoughtful person, a very curious person, sort of smart, but not hardworking because I didn't have any sense of direction. But these people, Stokely Carmichael, Diane Nash, John Love, John Lewis, and others, all sort of inspired me to begin to really value education and to really begin to go and begin to read more books, to begin to value education, and begin to realize that in order to, I had a lot of good ideas, but not the vocabulary to express those. So it made me go to the dictionary, go to books in order to really value learning, and that's what put me on the road to increasing my participation not only in civil rights, but also my interest in love for education.
Does what you seem today seem like a repeat of the past? How so?
There's a saying that the past doesn't repeat itself, but it sort of, you know, come close. And so many of the hard-earned rights that we got. For example, I came up under segregation. I could not, I could not go downtown and put on a pair of shoes if I wanted to buy a pair of shoes. They would make you put your, they would put a piece of cardboard down on the floor, and you'd have to actually, if you were black, you would actually have to put your foot on the cardboard, and they would sketch it out, and then give you an approximation of how large your foot was. And because they considered us unworthy of like wearing the same shoes, or the same thing was true for clothes. They wouldn't let you try on dresses or try on your pants because they were considered inferior to white people, and sort of they wouldn't let you. For example, if you went downtown and there was a fountain, a water fountain, there was one considered white and one written colored. And if you drank out of the a white fountain, you could be put in jail or your parents could be punished. There were just a lot of restrictions like that. And we fought against that, and we not only won the right to get the right to be treated like human beings and to give us the same dignity that white people required, but they also gave us certain rights. And one of those rights was the right to vote. And one of the most important things about the right to vote, that if you don't have the right to vote, then you can't even be on a jury panel, which means that like if your brother or your sister went to jail and they accuse your brother, your sister, or your uncle or your aunt of a crime, if they chose the jury panel from the people who could vote. So if you were not allowed to vote, then there would be nobody to represent you like yourself on the jury panel. There would be no black people on the jury panel. So everything about your life would be determined by white people. Another thing that I lived on King Street. This street was named after Rufus William King, who was the vice president from Alabama of the United States government. And on King Street, the white people lived on the higher level of King Street where the street was paved. We lived on the lower level of King Street where the streets were not paved. And we also lived in a flood zone, which means that if the water raised up high, the water would run in and flood our houses. We weren't allowed to live up on the higher ends out of the flood zone. So even if you didn't have a right to vote, you couldn't get the right or to have any say-so in whether your streets were paved, whether your garbage was picked up. As a matter of fact, I remember when they eventually paved our street, the people down, the black people on the lower end of King Street had to actually pay a fee to get the streets paved. So there were lots of things like that because we had no political power, we didn't have the right to vote, we were denied equal access to being treated fairly. One of the things that is different now is that after 60 years of winning all of those rights, the president today is now trying to do everything he can in the Republican Party to reverse all of those rights. They've already reversed one of the most significant rights, Section 4 of the Voting Rights Act. And now the Supreme Court has before it the decision about what they're going to do in terms of erasing Section 2. And if they erase Section 2, which is very likely, then all of the rights that we won to have black people be treated fairly and to give us the right to have black elected officials will be denied, and we'll probably end up in a space very similar to how we were being treated 61 years ago.
Okay.
How can we get around moves to erase so much history?
Well, what I do is I fight all the time. I'm sort of pretty old compared to you guys, but we don't have the option of not fighting. The old folks don't have that option, and the young people like yourselves don't have that option. And part of my coming to speak to young people like you is to let you know what it used to be like and that you need to be able to continue to fight. You need to be the next generation that fight to uphold the rights and to increase the rights that we earned and make sure that they're not eroded, they're not taken away from us.
In your opinion, how can we, as a younger generation, keep the movement alive?
Um, well, there's a term, do the right thing, and the right thing is to make sure that you, when you're old enough, you vote, and always start at home. Ask your mother and your father if they're registered to vote. Ask your family members if they're registered to vote, and make sure that you start at home by finding out, first of all, don't try to recruit people until you've recruited the people that are closest to you, the people that are actually in your home. And then as you mature, what you can do is find an organization or find a cause to support that advances the right thing to do. It can be through social involvement, political involvement, or individual involvement. What I do is I'm part of an organization that does three things. One, they help underprivileged children get into college, test for their, give them tests in, for their SATs and their ECTs, take them to schools and museums and things like that to expose them. The second thing they do is that they sponsor teachers on tours to let them, and especially history teachers, pay for their tours to go to locations that that actually where history happened. For example, I just came back on a tour from Mississippi and Tennessee, where we visited the house where Medgar Evers lived before he was assassinated. We visited the site where, and these are teachers who teach history, visited the site where Schwerner, Cheney, and Goodman, three people who were lynched in Mississippi, and we went to a very famous person house, Mrs. Oh yeah, well, the female. Miss Fannie Lou Hamer, right. We went to Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer's memorial gardens in Mississippi. And also we went to Mount Bayou, Mississippi, where the first black town was established. And so what we do for teachers. And the third thing we do is we help people get registered to vote. And those are the three things that an organization does.
Thanks. What do you want students to know about how to stand up for their rights?
Is first of all that you deserve everything that any American deserves. You should deserve a good education. You deserve a safe environment against hostilities and brutalities. You deserve to be treated like a human being. You deserve adequate housing. You deserve an excellent education. You deserve to be treated like a fully Americanized human being, and you should not accept for anything less than all of those things that I said and more.
Okay. What keeps you going in these times?
Well, what keeps me going is the fact that I know that I can't, I'm sort of retired from a job, but civil rights is something that you can't retire from because, the president and the Republican Party won't allow us to be able to just do nothing and keep going forward. So I'm sort of committed to a lifetime commitment to working hard and making sure that young people like yourselves have the advantages that I've had.
Is there anything we did not ask you that you wanted to share with our audience?
One, well, one of the things I'd like to remind you of is that, like, many of the people who marched in the Selma movement and who helped change the world in 1965 were just little bit older than you. For example, Mrs. Linda uh, Lowry was 14 years old in 1965 when she actually marched during Bloody Sunday and marched all the way from Selma to Montgomery. She marched 54 miles from Selma to Montgomery in order to support civil rights. There was a Mrs. Cheyenne Webb, was 8 years old, and she was involved in many of the demonstrations. Mrs. Lowry was arrested 9 times by the time she was 14 years old. Her sister, Mrs. Joanne Bland, was about 11 years old when she was participating in the civil rights movement. She was arrested 13 times. So there were people who have made great sacrifices I was 17 years old, so I was one of the older people in the movement as a young student. But like there were children, babies, who actually stood up for what was right during those times and they lay the groundwork for people like you to realize that there's nothing that ordinary people can do extraordinary things. And I'll repeat that. Ordinary people can do extraordinary things if they just simply stand up. You'd be surprised how much you have in you if you just get up and use it.
We have a special gift for you.
Oh, thank you.
And I want to thank you for coming on our podcast. I really want to thank you.
And I'd like to thank you.